Welcome back, boys and girls. Our last guest tonight is Nick Lalwani from Create by Influence. Nick, welcome to the neighborhood, my man.
Thanks for having me, Jim.
So we always do the journey type talk.
Okay.
A lot of people that when they do interviews, they're like, "Oh, I do all this business," and that's really cool.
Yeah.
But I like to know about the person. We like to tell the story. So, like, before this Nick Lalwani, I know there's been a couple versions of you because I've known you for a little bit.
Yeah.
But go back even a little bit further, like maybe grade school, high school, to pre-college.
Right.
Talk a little bit about your journey and how you became this version of you.
Woo! That is a deep journey, but you know, it's I would definitely say it's a humble roots, humble beginnings type of story for me. Even from like grade school, I kind of found different passions at a young age, and watching my parents and evolving in that environment. Seeing my dad, blue collar worker. Working class. He came from India when he was 21. Met my mother. They got married, and then, in my journey of my youth, I watched my dad build businesses.
Okay.
And I was very inspired. He was the only one in his kind of family that kind of didn't pursue the college route, the expected road.
Right.
And, I watched him, be a car salesman, start a jewelry store, sell watches, flip cars. If there's anything that can make money, he found a way to do it. And at a young age, I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. Okay. Right? So, through that journey, I realized at a young age I had, different creative abilities, and, school was hard for me because I was very introverted in my younger years. Really? I was extremely introverted.
Okay. All right.
So I got picked on, it was kind of hard to find where I meshed well in high school, and my first venture was a clothing line, which was called Influence Apparel. Okay. And that's when I was designing t-shirts, selling them out of the trunk of my car, going to nightclubs, creating partnerships and synergy around the brand. And then it kind of coasted down that path. And
nice.
It was the beginning there, I would say.
How did you get from clothing to
digital
marketing and that type of thing? Because you also did physical fitness, and you did some competing, right? You did competing, and
I did.
Yeah.
So I had a natural natural thing for the weight room, because I was on the wrestling team, and I was one of the smallest, skinniest guys on the team freshman year. I was 103 pounds soaking wet. So I realized, sophomore, junior year, I started hitting the weight room, started bulking up. I put on 20, 30 pounds between junior, senior year. And I felt good, man. It just became a natural, kind of desire for me to hit the weight room. I did it in my garage where I lived, at the time. Okay. And then from there, I kind of created a passion out of it, not realizing that I'd pursue it later on and do competitive bodybuilding. Okay. Which happened after high school. Right. Yeah.
Be tough to be a competitive bodybuilder in high school,
Yeah, it was, I was still transitioning, but the caveat was I lost my father before I got into competitive bodybuilding. Okay. And he was the driving force that made me want to compete in my first show, where I took the whole show, the overall, and I actually won my first show, which not a lot of people hear that. First time around, you really don't know what to expect. Sure. I had a lot mentally, invest into that journey.
Nice. And then you got into... You did the clothing. What was the marketing part of it? How did you decide, hey, I want to start this company? I know you partnered with Dave, but how did you get this idea?
So digital marketing, that was something I found it on my own. Year one, it was a startup. We focused on doing websites for small businesses. Year two, I brought on a COO, daily operations guy. He's my business partner as well. His name's Steven. He's from Oklahoma. Okay. We met playing video games over 15, 20 years ago. Okay. Interesting enough. And we ended up, going into this, and taking it from, what was not a recurring revenue business into a recurring revenue business by implementing the digital marketing, which we saw at the time. As early adopters implementing that, we realized every business needed it. Okay. If there was one aspect of running social media marketing or running paid ads or doing something organic to actually grow that business and get in front of more customers, we took that model and we progressively made a successful business out of it. And then we kept scaling to the point where, we found our sweet spot. Okay. And that was home services, trades, real estate, and finance.
And now you're focusing not exclusively on real estate and mortgage, but that's kind of, you know, your target for the most part, right?
Yeah, I would say that's one division of it, because we branched out and we started that venture, which you know about. It's under a new corporation name called Qoretx.
Okay.
Which it's a software technology company catered towards mortgage loan officers and real estate agents.
Okay. Nice. How did you pick that? Like, was it just you stumbled into it, or you had success in that line?
The idea of like pursuing
targeting that.
Yeah. Good question. So as we started to see like where the needs were of real estate, we realized more agents and MLOs were lacking the synergy to work together. You know, and it's kind of like one of those like old school things where it's like if you're an LO that brings, you know, a box of donuts to a real estate office, you're trying to do business with the agents, and you know we're in an innovation timeline right now where it's like, you know, technology keeps advancing. You know, you look at innovation and it's like, you know, if people are smart enough to drive a smart car, buy a Tesla product, or shop on Amazon, why would they not want better technology in their hands so they can run a more successful business? Sure.
And you actually went out and got your real estate license, right?
I did. I spent a whole year studying real estate, like all through 2023 and last year into this year. And the reason I did that was because I wanted to accelerate that learning curve to really understand what all goes into doing a transaction, you know. And I found out a lot of things that, you know, it's a nitty-gritty industry.
Yeah, man.
And this one's probably, like, I don't know what it was like prior, but anybody that's starting out, it's cutthroat.
It's tough, man.
It's cutthroat. You can drop out in a month if you're not progressively bringing on, you know, more business.
Sure. And I mean, you've always been kind of the entrepreneur, the not salaried person, so that's not a shock to you to have to go hunt and go chase your check rather than be guaranteed it. But what do you think some of the differences are that you've experienced in real estate versus other entrepreneurial ventures that you've been into?
For real estate, I realize a lot of it comes down to teams, processes, training, and mentorship.
Okay.
And one thing I came to realize over, you know, my year and experience of being a realtor was, you know, a lot of the big box companies, they don't necessarily equip every agent for that true success. And the ones that produce the most are the ones that usually hang around.
Sure.
You know, and then you see how the lead generation model works. And a lot of people are always scrambling like, you know, where am I going to get my leads from? You know, if you don't have a sphere of influence, you have to find that business outside your sphere of influence. And that's where a lot of the loan officers and real estate agents that we've talked to throughout the year, you know, they either have a great hold on that or they don't, and they're trying to implement a lead generation model to get them in front of more people. And with the transitions of like the NAR lawsuit, you know, buyer side commission, you know, kind of being like kind of pulled away, and the kind of like this big reset that's happening, I think it's making a lot of people reevaluate how they do real estate.
Sure.
You know, and we're trying to be kind of like, you know, watching it, taking notes, and trying to figure out how we can create solutions around what's happening.
And you had a little bit of a different perspective too, because I know you worked with some wholesalers with sourcing their business and getting their leads and SEO. Was that what you were doing with them?
We did a lot of SEO, PPC, and outbound marketing. So the goal was always to get direct to seller. And because we're in a seller's market, we identified that those tactics actually are a great way to get in front of sellers, whether they want to list retail or sell to an investor.
Okay.
You know, so it kind of made us open-minded to, as we're building up different marketing models, you know, if we were to help brokerages and more mortgage companies succeed, you know, there should be a way that you can get direct to seller, you know, in the sense of how we've done it in the past. We're trying to find a way to, it's like Amazon, wholesale, retail. Why can't these worlds be like together?
Right. All right. Now, aside from the business stuff, like, what kind of stuff do you do? You're a younger entrepreneur. You're in good shape. What kind of stuff do you do on a daily basis to keep yourself in I know we're friends on Facebook, so I know you go to the gym a lot, but do you do any type of like meditation? What do you do for personal improvement? What are some of the things that you do to better yourself?
Yeah. So one of my biggest fears, you know, I kind of got over it in the last 2 years, was public speaking. Okay. You know, and I really wanted to sharpen that. And my way of sharpening that was taking speaking opportunities with Real Producers Magazine.
I was going to say, I've seen you do some stuff with John Duffin.
So Josh Buckner, he put me onto a couple really awesome opportunities. I did my first speaking thing. It was a couple minutes on stage at the gala, but that opened up the door for me because I realized after the gala I got good feedback. Okay. So I try to find ways to pursue it, and I joined the SJ RIA this year, right? I actually did a speaking thing about digital marketing and real estate with digital marketing recently in Burlington. But my big thing was, the public speaking was a big thing I wanted to like hone in on, because I know the more you can articulate what you do in front of bigger audiences, the more people can resonate with what you do. Unless, if you don't, they don't really know. Kind of like what you do here with this podcast. And then the other thing is, fitness has always been a part of my life. I got kind of indoctrinated thinking I needed to be up at like 4 a.m., 5 a.m. every single morning to be like a hardcore, like I realized my mental levels of like stress and like energy levels were declining because I was trying to be like super critical, even if I was getting less sleep.
Right.
So I kind of recalibrated how I train, even if I train every other day. If I train later in the day, it doesn't have to be in the morning. Like, I don't want to do like 20 million things before I actually start doing the important stuff of my day.
Right.
Where, everybody has their own magic motion to it. But, my thing is the quicker I can get in the flow with work, the more successful my day is going to be.
Sure. It's funny that you say that about the public speaking, because I had a college professor at Camden County College way back in the day, and he made everyone do presentations. Like, that was part of his thing. Like, we had 2 classes a week or 3, I don't even remember, but somebody did a 3 or 4 minute presentation every class. And it was part of his thing. And he's like, look, no matter what you do, you need to learn how to talk in front of people.
It's important.
No matter what it is. If you can't articulate your thoughts and feelings in front of a group of people, you're going to fail. And no matter what line of work you're in, no matter what you're doing, and I took a couple public speaking courses in college and just got used to it. Like, whatever it is, talk about uncomfortable things, do whatever. I think that that's one of the things we don't do for our kids now. I think it should be almost like a part of the curriculum to get them used to talking in front of people, because 100%. It's one of those things that you can be really good at it. You can find somebody that's like, whatever you want to call it, silver-tongued devil, whatever you want to call it, and they're good at it. But if you even if you suck at it, if you do it enough, you'll be
reps.
Passable.
It's reps. This is reps.
So it's not like you'll always be bad at it. But people get so I know. With my kids, there's a couple of my kids and their friends where it's like, oh, I don't want. My daughter's 16. She started her first job as a waitress at Friendly's, and she's like, I don't know if I really want to talk to people. I'm like, you don't stop talking. What do you mean? But there's that like social anxiety and whatever, and I'm like, just do it. And if you suck, just do it.
You know what got me out of that whole, like, it was working at Wegmans for 11.5 years. I left that part out earlier, but I was a customer service representative there, and I was a cashier first. Okay. But day one I was on the belt, and I'm like, I gotta actually have a conversation with everybody. Right. And that customer service, it was the same thing, and it was like, before I knew it, it was like, all right, now I'm like getting comfortable, like just having interactions with strangers like constantly every single day. And that was your like coming out of your shell. That was my that was me. It was like 11.5 years, and then that bled, like it kind of pollinated into entrepreneurship, and then the B2B skill set just became like this. Yeah. I was at an event last night, and Tony Chowdhury was talking on it. Do you know Tony? He owns Fusion Gyms. And he was the presenter, and his family came here when his dad came here when he was 2 from Bangladesh, and then he came here when he was 4, and he was talking about just the different mindset of being not American in America and all these other things, and he was just talking about like the failure and just keep doing stuff and just keep moving forward and just learn and don't stop. And it was just interesting to get a different perspective, because he's like, dude, there was 9 of us living in a 2-bedroom apartment, and we were happy to be there. And that's how it went. And he's crushing it now. That's awesome. But you get different perspectives, and he was talking very similarly. Like last night, he did an incredible job. It was only the second time he ever spoke in front of people, and he's like, that's normally not my personality, but I got to work on my craft and do that. And it's like a flip too. You start getting these instincts where it's like your body starts leading you, and you don't even realize, why am I nervous? Like, I'm just doing what I want to do at that point. Yeah. So what are like
like your heart points, or like what's near and dear to you? Do you have any like charities or any like, I don't know, some people go fucking fly fishing, you know what I mean? Like, is there anything that's like your stuff that you do on in your private time?
Private time, it's really all encompassing with family.
Okay.
I'm a father of twins, Leo and Bella. They're both 2.5 years old.
All right.
My wife's a stay-at-home mother, so she holds down the fort while I go and try to build this empire for us. And I love every moment. I cherish every moment with them. Bonding time. Some days I work so much that sometimes you don't realize that you need to just kind of pull yourself back in and find that balance. Yeah. And my way of finding that balance recently has been just to do more remote days, so I can kind of passively be around my kids. While I'm pursuing meetings and all these different things. But outside of that, I love cars. Okay. Big car enthusiast.
New cars or old cars? Or all cars?
A little bit of both. Okay. I like a lot of European. I also like muscle cars. Okay. I love Porsches. I grew up, going to every car show, looking at the Porsches. And nice. The GT3 RS is probably my favorite car out there. But
I'm not a car guy. I mean, I know what a good car is, but I drive a Prius, and that's the way it works, and I love it. That's my thing. Frankie is the car guy of the group here. He's like, oh yeah. I'm like, I don't know. But the kid stuff is cool. I know that was your first kids, right? The 2.5 years first. Right? Yeah, that's an interesting thing, and I mean, for me, I was talking to my wife about it last night. I go in every morning and I wake my youngest daughter up. She's 1. And I get 15 minutes with her every morning before I start my day. Before I do it, that's like my battery recharge, and we just hang out. Yeah. And then I don't know. There's a lot of days where I don't get home before she's in bed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, those
but I got that 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's what matters. Where
she knows that she saw my face first. We hang out, we bond, we start the day, and then maybe we see each other, maybe we don't. Yeah. But the kid stuff is
that's staple, man. I mean, I started reading them a book every single night now, and that's our routine. Like now they're old enough to pick out their books, and we go to the bed and we read them. And
is there? I mean, you can't have a favorite between the two of them, but is there one that is a little bit more like you? You know what I mean?
Dude, it's textbook. So textbook, my daughter is my wife, and my son is me. Okay. 100%.
And you can tell right from the gate.
The kid eats steak. He's naturally built. Right. He's more introverted. Yeah. He's definitely a mama's boy, and my daughter's super alpha, leader of the pack. Okay. And it's like watching too many mini-me's like running around the house. It's amazing.
All right, that's awesome.
It's literally amazing.
All right, we're going to finish it up with your personal question, and I'm going to go with, you could do a 30-minute sit-down interview with any person that ever lived. They could be famous, it could be not famous, whatever. Yeah. You get to sit down with any person that ever walked the earth. Who would the person be, and what would be one of the questions you want to ask them?
Oh, man, it's emotional because I could go for anybody, but I'd like to talk to my dad. Yeah. Say, Dad, you proud of me? You watching me? And that'd probably be one of the most emotional things I could, but aside from my dad, if it were to be like a celebrity or someone in like the, in that whole space, I'd love to talk to Ed Milet. Yeah? Yeah. That guy he changed the trajectory of things for me, and I can definitely say I felt a strong connection with that guy.
Ed's a good dude. Yeah. Yeah, awesome. Nick, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
We'll be back next week with another episode of Mr. Mortgage's Neighborhood.
Peace.